Peace. Wise King for Wise Words Media and fight fans, buckle up. This is the one right here. We are going to see one of those rare occurrences where you get the best offensive fighter in the game versus the best defensive fighter in the game. You're going to have the master of offense in Vasyl Lomachenko taking on the master of defense, Guillermo Rigondeaux. Now, this is reminiscent of when Chavez took on Pernell Whitaker. This is going to be one of those classic confrontations. And, you know, ESPN, they dropped the ball on this one. These guys did not promote this fight whatsoever. The first commercial I saw for this fight aired on Monday, like 6 days before the fight. Like, come on. How do you have the potential fight of the decade on free television, ESPN, on your very platform? You have the best platform to promote this. You have SportsCenter, First Take, various shows that people watch on a daily basis, and you don't even promote your product. So yeah, this is terrible. Terrible job by ESPN. And speaking of the nightmare that ESPN has been doing with boxing, these guys actually pulled Teddy Atlas off of the commentary tonight. Teddy Atlas will not be a part of the telecast as far as being a commentator, which is a travesty. He's the only guy in ESPN that knows anything about boxing. Only guy. And it's a shame. And the reason why they're doing it is because he spoke up against the corruption in boxing. Look up, if you haven't seen it yet, look up the post-fight interview with Teddy Atlas, the post-fight of Canelo Triple G. And he goes in. He said he's seen it. Boxing has been corrupt for as long as you could even recall boxing history. You know, these guys, when they have these sanctioning bodies, they be having parties. Teddy Atlas said he's been to these parties where the promoter wines and dines the judges. And these guys, they're having conversations the night before a fight. They're stimulated, drinking, having a great time, and the promoters are talking to these judges the night before a fight after they wine and dine and spend X amount of hundreds or possibly thousands of dollars in wining and dining these people. They have them working a professional fight. It's a travesty. And he spoke about that. He also spoke about how $30,000 was allocated into the account of a judge the day after a tremendously wild scorecard. These are the things that got Teddy Atlas pulled from tonight's mega fight. So Teddy Atlas, peace to you. You know, you always been one of the real ones. You're a boxing guru. Keep doing your thing. Keep speaking your truth the way you know how to do. But back to business. Yeah, so tonight, Vasyl Lomachenko has had a great degree of success because he brings tremendous footwork, a master of creating angles, matrix-like angles. And he's a southpaw, which has that coupled with his footwork and angles has become a nightmare for people stepping in the ring with him. He's neutralized Nicholas Walters, who the Axeman was supposed to be like a top-tier fighter in the division, and he made him look horrible. And equally paralyzing, on the other end, you have the master of defense in Guillermo Rigondeaux. Rigondeaux, if you go back to the fight against Nonito Donaire, Donaire just came off of being fighter of the year. He had like a 3 knockout streak the year that he won fight of the year. And yeah, he was fighter of the year. Tremendous left hook, solid right hand. He was supposed to be the successor to Manny Pacquiao for Philippines boxing. Not only that, he was supposed to be one of the next megastars in boxing, period. HBO was backing him, putting a lot behind him. And he stepped into the ring with Guillermo Rigondeaux, and it was a boxing masterpiece from a defensive perspective because he neutralized him throughout the fight. Guillermo Rigondeaux's defense, his hands, his positioning of his hands for his defense, his slick footwork. He is quick, a great counter puncher. Guillermo Rigondeaux is a total package of everything you want to see in a defensive fighter. So, what happens in this ultimate chess match when a Matrix-like fighter fights a paralyzing defender? One of the key components here is that Guillermo Rigondeaux is a southpaw, unlike many of Vasily Lomachenko's previous fights. This means that straight left is not going to come at a shorter distance as it would against a conventional right-handed fighter. It's gonna come from somebody who's facing him in the same position. So that left hand is going to be spotted a lot easier than it would be if Lomachenko was fighting a conventional fighter. So Guillermo Rigondeaux kind of neutralizes some of the attack by being a southpaw himself. Also, Vasily Lomachenko going into this fight is going to be the bigger man. This is probably the first time he's going to have this much of a size advantage over an opponent. So it's going to be interesting to see how aggressive. We know he's an aggressive fighter, but we're going to see how aggressive he is. And in his aggression, does he leave himself open to Guillermo Rigondeaux? Is he going to sleep? Because you saw in the weigh-in and on the face-off yesterday, there's a huge size advantage. Lomachenko is the much bigger guy. Is he going to feel that much confident and try to bully his way towards Rigondeaux? Will him, in his bullying tactics, leave himself open for the counterpunching of Rigondeaux? And Rigondeaux's slick defense, will he be able to neutralize some of this aggression that we're going to see from Lomachenko tonight? So it's going to be interesting to see how aggressive Lomachenko is, knowing he's a defensive expert, but he's much smaller than Lomachenko. So it's going to be interesting to see that. It's going to be interesting to see the lefty against lefty, southpaw versus southpaw confrontation tonight. And, it's going to be one of those epic chess matches. Tonight, if you're doing anything, freeze it. Tonight, the world comes to a crashing halt when it comes to this mega fight. My early prediction is going to be with Guillermo Rigondeaux shocking the world. Rigondeaux is going to be, he's smaller, he's older, he's 37 years old, a couple years out of his prime. However, the guy, his defense is very paralyzing and very slick, and he looks good for 37. So I think he's going to have what it takes to neutralize Lomachenko's attack. I think Lomachenko might dive in a little too aggressively, being that he's the bigger guy, and I think Rigondeaux will win off the Cuban-style point system. I think they'll go the distance, they'll go the full 12, but I think at the end of the day, you're gonna see Guillermo Rigondeaux, with his experience, pull this one off. So, fight fans, hit me back on the inbox. Let me know how y'all feel about that. Let me know what y'all predictions are for tonight. And enjoy it. This is going to be one of those special nights in boxing. So, to the next one. Peace.